along if anybody even looked at it. Okay, and then the assignment. I'll grade that today. Yeah, I saw you turn it at like 1:30. Yeah, like 1:30 you turned it in or something.
Yeah, I noticed there was another one, so. I didn't see it.
Your grade is reflected.
I turned it in.
Did you?
Yeah.
No, I don't know about that. I only saw 3.
Maybe it was like, I don't even recognize. I just didn't turn it in.
You did not turn it in either.
I know. I didn't even.
You should probably do that
Right.
rather than editing my face on the people. All right, okay, let's get working here. So Thursday, we started talking about constitutional monarchy. So our rights and freedoms given to the people. Okay, and the monarchy in England is starting to be reflective of the people's values more. So today we're going to shift and talk about the Enlightenment period, so the Age of Enlightenment. And you'll see with a lot of these Enlightenment thinkers that we talk about, a lot of their values, a lot of their ideas are reflected with the United States government. So I'd like you guys to take note of that as we're going through some of these Enlightenment thinkers today. I think we're only going to talk about 3 of them today. And we'll move on and talk about more and more. But just want you to take note of that. I know I'll mention about it. I'll talk about it. So that's important to know. Working on a bell ringer, Nick. Today is the 14th. No, you just try to keep it open, and then they closed it because of the rally at the Valley. That's what happened. Called them out. Yeah, you do. Chocolate. Yeah.
Chocolate.
It's waiting for it. Yeah, I'd be worried at first. I didn't know if you guys knew SpongeBob.
That's okay, they're only doing that. I'm plenty of time. I have plenty of time to keep them done. They don't take long. It'll take just this one.
No, that's.
Oh, yeah.
Put bones based on it. Like the onion, like the onion.
It ain't that hard.
Is that painting?
Luckily.
Yeah. But like I said, the paint.
All right, okay. So we're talking about the age of absolutism. We mentioned about a few absolute leaders, absolute monarchs. So what are the clear differences between a constitutional monarchy here and an absolute monarchy? Connor, go ahead.
Absolute monarchy from absolute power.
Good.
Constitutional monarchy.
All right, good, good. So you have a constitution that is somewhat talking about the rights and freedoms of the people, and the English Bill of Rights. We mentioned about that on Thursday. Now that was created with William and Mary after that English Civil War that was really drawn out for a long period of time. And with all that conflict, the constitutional monarchy emerged. And this is giving rights, freedoms to the people that the government can't infringe on or take away. So the Constitution reigns supreme over top of the monarch. In all reality, for the monarchy, they really don't have too much power. It all resides with Parliament. And we mentioned about Parliament in chapter 1. So, well, 1 and 2. And it's important to note with a constitutional monarchy, we see the change, a shift more towards democracy. And with that, we'll see more Enlightenment views being brought forth during this time period of the absolute, the age of absolutism. So that's important to note, and this is going to inspire revolutions. So we will talk about revolutions here shortly. I decided to try to shift up a little bit, break these chapters up, because I can see it's getting pretty long when it comes to material and cap terms. So I'm going to finish up with the Enlightenment period, talk about the scientific revolution here, break that off, and then we're going to talk about revolutions, and then the Napoleonic age next chapter. Okay. I understand what the Age of Exploration, the Reformation, the Renaissance, that was a pretty big chapter. So I want to kind of break that up so it's not as large, it's not as big as the test. So that's my goal, that's the game plan here moving forward. All right, so real quick, the English Civil War here. So we talked a little bit about the Wars of the Roses War in chapter 2. What about this English Civil War? What did we talk about? This revolution in England. What was it really stemming from? What was it stemming from? You guys remember, I brought forth this constitutional monarchy. Go ahead, Paul.
Like absolute power, the Parliament, and
Yeah, it was based off religion at first, right? So we had a lot of issues when it came to Catholicism being brought forth, and then you had different viewpoints of Protestantism, Anglican, you name it. And there's a lot of conflict amongst the people in England. This actually pushed forth the Puritans, New Wave, obviously the Pilgrims, to try to settle and find a new land for their expressive religion. So that's something to note about. And yeah, when it came to this revolution in England, yeah, there was a lot of strife, a lot of issues, especially when it came to power. So for Charles I, and obviously it started more with James, but Charles I later comes around and said he's the divine right leader, much like we talked about with Louis XIV and Peter the Great. And then you had a lot of people within England really challenging that, saying that there should be more of a parliamentary system. What's the point of having this parliamentary democracy, this parliamentary system, if they're not going to be utilized, if their viewpoints through the elected officials aren't going to be expressed? So that's something to note, right? This Civil War was really drawn out, pushed to the point where William and Mary come to power and issue a constitutional monarchy. So yeah, they're kind of giving up their rights as, well, I won't say the rights, but their power as a monarchy. But for the most part, this is represented more of the people's values. And we still see this today. Okay, for the most part, we see a parliamentary system, but it is technically a constitutional monarchy. So the king, queen, or queen, they might not have near as much power, but in any case, they're still reflected as. All right, is there any questions on that? So make sure you turn in that assignment from Friday. I'll grade that at some point today. If not, you'll definitely see it tomorrow. Yeah, any questions? Any questions? So now we're shifting to the Age of Enlightenment. Just want to let you guys know that. So with these absolute monarchs, eventually you'll have some kickback. Eventually you have people discussing about certain things that is going to change the dynamics of the political structure. All right, so like I said, we're going to talk about a few Enlightenment thinkers today. So we got the Age of Enlightenment, salons where you get your hair done. No? Yeah, no. Adam Smith, Thomas Hobbes, and John Locke. Bless you. You guys need another minute? Yep. Okay. No problem. All right, so the Age of Enlightenment. What do we have for the Age of Enlightenment? What do you got? Connor, go ahead. Yeah, good job. Good job. So, as this age of absolutism, which we just talked about, a few kings and their rule and how they abused it, yeah, there's going to be a lot of push in a different direction to try to give more people rights, freedoms, liberties, and even property. So, it's important to note with this age of enlightenment, you probably wouldn't have it if the age of absolutism didn't come around, and how these kings literally live larger than life. So that's important to know. And we're going to talk about a few Enlightenment thinkers here today, tomorrow, and probably even Wednesday, and what inspirations they brought to Europe and the rest of the world. For the most part, when it comes to these Enlightenment thinkers, I'd like you to make connections then to how this is pushing for the United States government, how the United States government actually utilized, the founding fathers utilized some of these ideas to build U.S. government. So when we're going through these Enlightenment thinkers, make note of that, and you can make the connections. Salons, you get your hair done, right? Who we have here, Chris?
Not the place where you get. Back then it was a place where people gathered every class.
Yeah, good job. Good job. So in other words, this is a meeting, right? This is a meeting for groups of people, for the most part, that were well-rounded, that had an education, that had the ability to talk about certain ideas that could be really profound at the time, and even when it comes to these ideas of the Enlightenment, it really could push these people in the direction of death, right? To be viewed as heretics. But this is inspiration for the Enlightenment as we know. Okay, these ideas that are going to give structure, okay, and freedoms, and liberties to people that they never experienced and will never experience under the age of absolutism. So that's one thing to note here. The Enlightenment, the salons here, this is really just a meeting, a ground where people can talk and discuss about certain viewpoints that were challenging the age of absolutism to absolute monarchs, and bringing on a different political structure that is representative of the people. Adam Smith, what do we have for Adam Smith? Alana, what do you have? What's that? Can you speak up? Okay, good. What's he known for? What's he known for? You didn't write it down. What are you doing?
I wrote
Oh, okay. Amelia, go ahead. Yeah, good, good. So he is famous for writing The Wealth of Nations. And main thing to know here about Adam Smith is that he brings forth this idea of private business, okay, capitalism. Okay, I know we talked a little bit about it, hinted here and there, even during the medieval times, this commercial revolution, where capitalism, laissez-faire economics, the invisible hand, where government should stay out of the workings of the economy. Okay, overall, with capitalism, we'll see growth, and we'll see competition in the workplace. That's going to bring on innovation. It's going to drive prices lower for people, make it more affordable for them. If the crown controls it all, well, they set the prices, they set the wages, and we won't see any growth. We won't see any innovation. And we'll talk more about it moving on here when communism, socialism, and how the government controls a lot of the private business. This could cause some issues, some problems when it comes to innovation and even standard of living. So Adam Smith, make sure you write it down. He wrote The Wealth of Nations, talking about capitalism, talking about how government should stay out of the workings of the economy. Laissez-faire economics, okay, invisible hand. So we'll mention more about him today. Thomas Hobbes. Wyatt, go ahead.
An English philosopher is peculiar matters of modern.
All right, good job. So he wrote the Leviathan. And he's important for describing that people are wrong, that people are bad in nature, so that they need to be corrected. And the only way that they can be corrected is by an absolute monarchy. He believed that an absolute monarchy was the best type of government to keep people aligned and keep them in check. Do you think that's right?
Huh?
Do you think that's right? An absolute monarchy is the best form of government to keep people aligned and keep people in check.
Yes.
What do you think, Paul?
I don't think
mean, they're not gonna revolt, they're not gonna revolt against the guy or else they'd be killed, so it'll keep them on.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I think the best for keeping people.
Okay.
Yeah. See?
Gosh, all
You're
right.
Paul.
So yeah, Thomas Hobbes, he believes that people are morally bad, that they are born with these bad tendencies and bad nature, and that they need an absolute monarchy to keep them in line and keep them in check. So overall, with Thomas Hobbes, he thinks an absolute monarchy is the correct political structure, the best type of government to control society. All right, John Locke, he challenges Thomas Hobbes here. Bye, Chris, thank you. All right, good job, good job. So John Locke comes around and he believes that people should have life, liberty, and what do you think? What? What? No, no.
It's not,
Ozzy? Life, liberty, and Connor? So,
no, I knew you were gonna say that, that's wrong.
I'll be biased.
life, liberty. Go ahead, Matt.
Property.
What did you say? Property.
There you go.
Yeah, good
I'm
job.
just saying,
Why
the
property?
names.
Why property?
Alright.
Why do we think?
Well, for me.
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
Land, chances are you'll be happy, right? If you have some land, you have something to work for, and if the nation is protecting that for you, your life, liberty, and property, right, overall, you're gonna have a more sound society. You're gonna have a stronger structure, because people have these views, they have these limits, they have the ability to work for what they can control. Fellas, what are we doing? Let's calm down. What? Yeah, you're up there trying to distract Paul.
I
Trying
am
to learn.
Dude, say it
To learn
again.
about John Locke, and there you are filling your nose, looking at him, talking to him. Anyway, make sure you guys remember John Locke, life, liberty, property, he wants to bring freedoms and principles of freedom to people. And he challenges, he contradicts Thomas Hobbes. He says that people should have a social contract. What is a social contract? What does that mean?
You have to have a contract to talk to people,
Yeah,
something I need,
contract, you sit down, sign it, and you be quiet the whole time.
that's not gonna happen, I ain't put my name on that document,
Absolute monarchy, that's what you want to
I'd rather be hugged.
All right, what do we got? What is a social contract? What does it mean? Contract. Paul, thank you.
I don't exactly know, I think that's like a standard of society.
Okay, all right, so you're on the right track, but what does it mean? What is going on with this contract? What are the people giving to the government? What's the government? They have to do something.
No, like if providing like, trust in the government or like
Okay.
the government's giving them rights.
All right, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying here. So yeah, with the social contract, you're giving your loyalty, your oath to the government. And in return, the government's gonna provide certain abilities to you. They're gonna give you maintain social order, so they're gonna provide, let's say, a judicial system for you for the most part. They're gonna provide safety when it comes to a police force. They're gonna provide a national defense, so they're gonna protect you from external forces. They're also going to make economic decisions for you. Uh-oh. Who knows, depending on what type of government it is. And then you have public services, so providing services to the people. So you're giving up certain rights and freedoms for the government to provide that stability, that type of structure. So we'll talk more about that here soon, as a lot of these Enlightenment thinkers believe in this social contract theory. Even Thomas Hobbes, jeez. So, moving on here, everybody follow along.
Focus.
Huh?
Focus.
Okay. All right, so the Enlightenment, we're gonna move on and talk about a few of these Enlightenment thinkers here today. Okay, hopefully you wrote down some of their works when we're going over vocab. That'd be great. Enlightenment, Age of Reason. Here you go. So again, this stems directly from the age of absolutism. Okay, and how these absolute monarchs come into play and come into power. There has to be a challenge for it. Right? There's going to be people that gather in these salons that try to talk about certain reasoning and certain principles that politics should look like and be a little bit more representative for the people. All right, so philosophical movement in the 18th century, okay, moving for the advancement of this political structure to advance society. And like we just talked about with a constitutional monarchy, giving people rights and freedoms and providing these freedoms above the monarch. Okay, again, we didn't see it with France with Louis XIV. We didn't see it with Peter the Great. We talked about Charles I, James I, and even Charles II, and even Oliver Cromwell of England trying to hold on to this power. Okay, it's like they just can't give it up. It's like a ring that they get. They just can't give the power. I was joking. Lord of the Rings, yeah. They just fall into the power. But now with this Age of Enlightenment, we see a transition. We see a shift. Okay, and where people should be given these rights and freedoms, and this will bring a stronger structure to society as democracy is going to be presented. All right, so rejection of traditional social, religious, and political ideas. So yeah, as you can note with these Enlightenment thinkers, they're ahead of their time. And as they're presenting a lot of these ideas, they're viewed as heretics. They're viewed as people that are challenging the dynamics of government. And a lot of them, we'll see them, some of them actually being killed, exiled. And a lot of them actually writing anonymously just to try to protect themselves and their loved ones. So that's important to note. That's important to note. As this shift, this transition is occurring, a lot of these Enlightenment thinkers were writing in different names. They're writing in anonymous intentions to try to protect themselves because these viewpoints are directly challenging the government. So emphasis on rationalism and individuality. It's not like today, especially when you go on Twitter, oh man, all these political officials are getting crushed, right? It's unbelievable. But back in the day, that could never happen. So that's why a lot of these Enlightenment thinkers had to write in different names and different titles, different statuses to try to appear like they weren't challenging the government. If so, they'd be killed. Straight to death, right? All right, so philosophies, social critics in France during the 1700s, like I mentioned, they met in salons. So these were gatherings, these were meetings of people that were coming together to discuss certain values, principles that should be directed, and how the government should act for the people. In other words, these salons are like your modern day bars, right? Where people come together and talk about certain issues, maybe complain about their boss, their supervisor, right? And try to fix things, to try to find a different way, a different method of performing certain structure of society. All right, so influenced by England. So we just talked about this English Civil War and how change is really coming in different ways when it comes to the power. So we talked about the absolute monarchies of England and how many of them are challenging, let's say the Magna Carta, which we talked about in chapter 1, okay, the English Bill of Rights and the Constitutional Monarchy, right? This all appeared through this Enlightenment age, this Age of Enlightenment. In France, we don't see it just yet. We will, though, through many revolutions, okay? And we'll even talk about it even next chapter here with Napoleon and how he even actually kind of throws this to the side. In many cases, people view him as a dictator, many cases, but some say he was fighting to bring liberties to the rest of Europe that didn't see it, right? They didn't have these advancements in the rest of Europe. Okay, he wanted to try to bring these principles of freedom to Europe. So I guess it just depends on how you look at them. So we'll talk about that more next chapter. All right, so Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations. So 1776, wrote about the wealth of nations, like I mentioned here for the United States. It's important to know when it comes to capitalism, that is our main focus. We are considered a mixed market economy. What does that mean? A mixed market economy. What does that mean? Wyatt?
I got two things that I think because
Okay, what
it's
is it?
got something to do with different types of money, or it's got yeah.
What are you talking about, crypto? Oh, shut go ahead.
It's like, isn't it silver? Is that our like thing we rely on? It used to be gold.
The gold standard.
Yeah.
No, so what I'm looking for a mixed market economy is that we have more of a main focus on capitalism, but there's social hints of socialism interwoven within our economy, meaning that we have programs that are issued by the government through taxpayer money that are applied to our structure of our economy. So like education, for instance, that's a good example of, let's say, a social program interwoven within capitalism. But during this time, Adam Smith believed solely on capitalism. This is going to bring innovation. This is going to bring advancement for the people. This is going to allow for the standard of living for all people to rise. And the reason for it is because you have competition. These businesses are all competing against one another. And with that, obviously, you want the people to come to your business, buy your product. And if they're competing against one another, chances are they're going to lower the price to fit the needs of the individual. So that's going to make it more affordable for these people to purchase these items, purchase these goods. And that's going to bring a higher standard of living. Also, when it comes to innovation, so if you have a business or you're competing against another business, you want to have a better product. So this innovation is going to inspire more companies to think outside the box. They're going to apply more methods of advancement, of invention to apply to their own business. And if they can do that, right, they're going to have a better product and more people are going to come to buy your product, right? Yeah. Nice. It's like the iPhone versus Samsung. Oh man, Samsung. Yeah. Never know, never. Right. So with competition, we have a balanced marketplace. So we'll talk about it more when it comes to this progressive movement. Okay, and these monopolies start to really form under capitalism and this type of economic system. Okay, there's going to be needed for some change. The government might have to step in to make sure that these companies don't become too large and where they're buying up their rivals or opposition. And overall, that might put people out of business. That might put people in a different standing where these monopolies can control the products, the wages of people, and even the price of these products. So we'll mention that here soon enough. And in some cases, you might have to have some regulation. But in others, okay, capitalism just brings on innovation on its own. Laissez-faire just means the invisible hand. That government should not try to step in the way of the workings of the economy. And then here, number 3, for the natural laws of Adam Smith, supply and demand. So when supply is up, what happens to the price of goods? Go ahead, Paul. It drops just like demand, right? And if you have a lower supply of a product or a good, what happens to the price? It goes up just like the demand, right? You want more of it because you can't really find it, right? It's really not out there for many people. Just like the PS5, unbelievable. You can't find it. You got to pay extra for it. It's unbelievable. Good example. I can't get my hand on a PS5. All right. I didn't get to Thomas Hobbes or John Locke, but we'll talk about them more tomorrow. Sound good?
Yep.
All right. Okay.
Don't ask me how I found
I'm gonna start a company and everything I release, I'm gonna label limited edition so everybody buys it, and then I'll just keep producing.
There you go. That's what you got to do. It's just the wording of the right?